Hi everyone. This is a pre-class slideshow about subject headings, Module 6. I'm going to talk a little bit about description versus intellectual access. Intellectual access is the subject content of materials, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about assigning LC subject headings and authority control in subjects. So far, we've been doing descriptive cataloging. We have been describing access points like the title and the author, and most users do use that form of access to materials. They usually are doing what is called a known item search. They know the title or they know the author, and they can go in and use those known items to look for the material that they're looking for. Other descriptive elements are not usually searchable, so we don't search for the size of a book or the book cover color, but I would refer you to something called the International Children's Digital Library for a very alternative view of what can be searchable. So here is the front page of the International Children's Digital Library. And you can see, you can look up kid characters, real animal characters, imaginary creature characters. You can look for picture books, you can look for chapter books, you can look for make-believe books, and you can search by age group. You can also search for the color of the covers, which is pretty funny. So how do we give patrons intellectual access to a book? What the book is about? In library and information studies, we talk about this concept of aboutness. And describing topics is based on really two items. We try to choose the best description for the broadest point of the book. So we can't describe every single little thing that a book is about. But we can sort of say, oh, broadly this book is about cats. Broadly this book is about dogs. And if they were about evenly, like let's say half the book was about cats and half the book was about dogs, we would assign both of those headings. Well, it used to be limited to 3 subjects. And this is primarily because we had to file cards. There were, the more cards you had to file, the more hands you had to hire in order to do that. So, but now in the digital world, we're not limited to those 3 subjects, but most people do kind of keep it to that level of description about the topic of the book. So where do we look for the topic? Well, we can choose a keyword from the title or the subtitle. We could look at the table of contents and get some idea about what the book is about. We could read the introduction or the first chapter, and we could also look at for index terms in the index of the book. Look for the ones that are in bold to kind of say these were probably the most important ones for that particular book. So we're looking for these keywords, and it's the language that the book's author uses. But that's not official language. So we have to take those keywords and bring them to an authoritative subject heading view. And we're going to focus on LC subject headings, though I will mention a few other ones as well. So let's look for this particular, let's look for the topic of this particular book. Okay, here's the title, Food Fray, and the subtitle is Inside the Controversy Over Genetically Modified Food. So is the title Food Fray really going to help us figure out what the book is about? It's kind of, cutesy. It's a little controversial. There's a fight, there's a fray, but it doesn't really tell us much about what the book is about. It's really the subtitle that helps us here. Here's this topic, genetically modified food. But let's say we're just kind of thinking, okay, well, we could have this, let's look up food in the authoritative subject headings and see what happens. So if we type in the title Food Fray to something we looked at a little bit last week, which is authorities.loc.gov. Remember, we were looking up name authority last week and learning about personal names and how there's an official heading for personal names. So but here we're looking up topics. So in the food list, remember I'm typing in food fray, so here's food, freeze dried, food freezing, food, fried. And notice that it says 0 that is described with this particular topic. And it tells me that in these buttons. It says that there are going to be references from food, fried to something else. But there are the phrase food from A to Z actually has an authorized heading listed there. So let's take a look at this one that says references. So food, fried, it says C, fried food. So the authoritative heading is fried food. So if you have a cookbook that focuses on fried food, then this is where you would put that particular book. This is how you would describe the subject of that particular book. Let's say it that way. But we're also going to get information from the subtitle. Like I said, the subtitle includes the phrase genetically modified food. So let's put that in. This is authorities.loc.gov. I'm typing in the search text, genetically modified food. I'm saying my search type is subject authority headings, and I'm beginning the search. It also means that food biotechnology is a fairly synonymous term with genetically modified foods. I'm sorry. When you click on authorized and references, you get what looks like a MARC record, and it shows you that the 150 field is the main heading, And the two 450 fields are headings that would refer to this heading. So if we had looked up GM foods, it would say C, genetically modified foods. If we had looked up genetically engineered foods, it would have said C, genetically modified foods. But the two 550s are headings that could be used either with or alternatively to genetically modified foods. So you noticed in that big list of genetically modified foods, I hope, that there were a bunch of things listed with a dash dash after genetically modified foods. These are called subdivisions, and there are 5 different kinds of subdivisions: topical, form, chronological, geographic, and geographic divided by topic. So let's go back and look at that list again. We have, does anybody see one that's a subdivision by form? I see several. Here's biography, that's a form of material. Here's a case study. Here's congresses, which is an equivalent term for proceedings. Okay. Are there subdivisions by topic? Well, how about economic aspects? So these particular books are about the economic aspects of genetically modified food. And I don't see any for chronology, but there are several for geography, including large areas, Africa, and individual countries like Germany. And notice that the one about France is divided again by a topical subdivision. So this is a book about public opinion of genetically modified foods in France. So what did the catalogers do with our book, Food Fray? They used genetically modified foods' political aspects. That's hard to tell from the title, but probably in the introduction you would see that they're taking a particular political stance in this particular book about genetically modified foods. But they use the general topic as well, genetically modified foods. In class, I will explain health and fitness-safety because it's kind of an interesting story. So in WorldCat, these are, when I looked at the record for this book, these are the topic headings that were assigned to this particular book. So that's all I have as a little bit of an introduction. What I'd like you to do before we meet next time is to look at authorities.loc.gov and look up a topic that's of interest to you. See if you can find the authoritative heading for it. So bring the topic and the heading to class. And we'll do another exercise there. So that's all I have for now. see you in class next week for Module 6.